Hi, this is the continuation video from the Marbs showcase and first steps. If you haven't watched that one and don't really know anything about the system, then check it out first. So this video is all about comprehending what's truly going under the hood when we start the system. We'll go over all the steps and scripts that are run when we boot, and you'll also get to know the responsibilities of some of the core Marbs programs. Understanding what's going on then gives you the necessary knowledge to further take the full advantage of the system by adjusting it to your needs and potentially do some troubleshooting if something goes wrong. I've made this graph that illustrates the whole journey from the moment you log in to having the initial desktop displayed. We will use it in this video to orient ourselves. You can check out marbs.kuchta.dev/initflow to download the full thing in full resolution. Depending on when you're watching this video, the graph may have already been changed or improved upon, so the website will always contain the most up-to-date version. So we'll start by logging into user account. After logging in, your shell profile gets read. The shell Marbs uses is ZSH as opposed to more widely known bash. Let's fire up a terminal. In your home directory. You see the .z profile file. That is actually a soft link to the .config profile shell file. Let's inspect this file. I'll actually change the theme first using mod shift T to dark to showcase you the Marbs dark mode feature. But coming back to the Z profile thing, we see there are a lot of export statements that define various global variables that specify the behavior of our system. Things like the default editor, terminal, and browser apps are defined here. The cross-desktop variables that specify the directories where different data files related to config, cache, and miscellaneous data should be. There's program settings and a lot others. For example, variables that improve the Wayland experience. We're gonna scroll to the bottom to see this certain line that says if we log into TTY and we are not running DWL, then execute the start W command. And what is a start W command? If we look for it using where, we see the path which we're gonna inspect now. And we also see the corresponding graph position where it is actually in the stack. So you see it's a simple shell script that does a few things for us during the graphical environment startup. DWL command, as explained in the first video, provides the environment for our apps, similar to how the terminal provides an environment to interact with command line apps. It is all we're seeing. So the script runs this. The behavior of DWL can be easily adjusted by recompiling it. Let's quickly go over the configuration file for DWL as it is one of the most important ones in this system. To do so, we go to .local/src/dwl, and here we see the source code of the program, and the most important file here is config.h. Inside it, we can adjust every aspect of our graphical environment without getting down to some lower level code. So the name of the variables are pretty self-explanatory, and you always have some comments to help you figure out what they do. So there are a bunch of things to adjust here. And the section I would like you to specifically take a look at is the keys array, which contains all the global key bindings that you can use in your graphical environment. You can see that mod key, our alt along with W, spawns the LibreWolf browser. Alt-Shift+C kills the client, meaning the currently focused app. The volume up key executes a shell command, increasing the volume by 5% and sending a signal to some blocks to refresh the volume icon. And we'll go over what it means and the specifics of that one later. And you can go over them and change them to your liking. Currently, they are made in a way to help you associate with the functionality by mnemonics, such as Alt-W for, W web browser, and Alt-Shift-C, C as in close. And once you have made your desired changes, like say change the key responsible for spawning a Chromium browser from Alt-Shift-W to Alt+R, you need to recompile the program, which is a bit different to what you might be used to. To do so, we'll use the make package-sif command to make the package, overwrite the previous version, and install it. So the changes will take place once you quit DWL and start it again. And nice, now that you know that, let's jump back to the start W command script. So DWL passes the data about currently opened apps to the DWLB command, which is responsible for status bar at the top. And we'll go to that one also later. And then Pipewire sound system gets started, which is also responsible for video recording, strangely enough, but that's just some technicality. And if you have problem with either of those, you can blame Pipewire and try to do some debugging there. Then the script calls the theme set, again, theme set script. So it does a couple of nice things as well. Let's find out what it does exactly. So yeah, let's open it up. And scrolling to the bottom, we see how it recognized which theme should be, how it recognizes which theme should be used based on the time. If you boot your computer between, or specifically log into the user between 6 and 9, you're gonna get a light theme. That is the behavior without any flags. If the O-O flag is present, it's gonna switch to the opposite of what's currently set. And you can see how theme set with this option is bound inside DWL to Alt-Shift-T. Let's actually maybe prove it. There's the shortcut CFD to go to the config DWL file directly. There are many of these nice shortcuts to get you going anywhere you want. And yep, you can see it's there. So let's close that. And now that the script figure out which theme to set, it's calling the setup function, where we see a couple of interesting things. Using the gsettings command, we set the color scheme for GTK apps. This will also impact our browsers. Next, we're setting the wallpaper from pictures/wallpapers directory. You can see there are in total 4 of those, and yeah, you can dig into that a bit more if you want to, of course, change the wallpaper. Next, we dynamically adjust the links from where our terminal configuration gets read. We do the same for the file previewer called BAD as well. So next, we're making further adjustments to other programs like NeoVim and LF, so that at an instant the theme of these apps gets changed. And coming back to StarW though, the dbus update activation environment is for exposing some variables to dbus, which helps with cross-desktop portals responsible for screen recording and file picking. It's not super important to know that the things behind that one, but just so you know, it's related to those XDG portals, which we will talk about later. And next, we have the Kanshi daemon, which is responsible for multi-monitor configuration and automatic monitor placement. You can view its config inside config kanshi/config. And if you have a desktop where you don't really plug any plug and unplug monitors, you can adjust the monitor setup statically in .config dwl config.h and delete this line. And so next, there's fnot. This is a notification daemon that just runs in the background and displays notifications whenever an app or a shell script wants to send one. And we can test it out with notify send. I am notifying the system that marbs is awesome, and bam, you see it in an instant. So this is the thing that's responsible for those notifications. And finally, the sunblocks-p directive that gets piped to DWB to display the status information on the right of our status bar. And similarly to DWL, sunblocks and DWLB apps are apps which need to be recompiled in order to have the changes applied, and whose source code is always present on the machine under .local/src. And we'll go first into some blocks, and the main configuration file is blocks.h. There we specify what we actually want to have displayed as our status. So the blocks variable define each segment of our status line, and the most important one is the command directive. For each segment, a shell script gets executed that actually defines what it displays. You can see that the memory information, the sb-memory command, gets run every 3 seconds. And let's check out the internals of that command then. You can see that it's just a command that formats the output of the free command to have a nice display of the current RAM usage. We can execute this command just like any regular command to see the same output as we have in the status bar. So that's the inner working of these commands. And most of those status bar commands work like this, but there is one exception. And as sblog functions a bit different, we can inspect it. So here we see that if the sway idle program is running, we kill it and display an opened log icon. If it is not present, the sway idle, the script then starts sway idle, which after 240 seconds of inactivity runs the sus command and does not display anything. We can hence see how the script basically functions like a toggle. We can control whether the system auto-suspends after 4 minutes of inactivity by just running the script. And the aforementioned sus script basically logs the computer and puts it to sleep. So that was the one exception that actually has side effects. But coming back to some blocks, it's an aggregator of all these functions that make sure they are rerun in specified interval, or in the case of sblog, there's not really an interval or sb volume, but because it allows for manually refreshing the status by sending an appropriate signal to the process itself. And these signal sending capabilities are best illustrated when you increase the volume using media keys, or want to deactivate auto-locking with the sblog thing. To demonstrate this, let's swiftly come back to DWL's config, CFD. And inside the keys array, you notice the volume media key up corresponds to a shell script that first increases the volume and then sends a signal to some blocks to do a refresh for volume icon. Get more details on how it all works by checking out the Marbs website, but I think this is the basic idea behind all of it. So we now finally jump into DWB. So DWB actually stands for DWLB. See, it's a weird name, honestly. Like DWL is of course our display manager, and DWLB stands for bar. So it is just for displaying the bar on the top of our window manager. And similarly to DWL, it contains the config.h file, but this time you mostly just specify the appearance of it without any real functionality. And the names there are pretty self-explanatory. Just for the last time coming back to start W, you can see that there's some delay added between sleep and running some blocks, and there's just there to make that's just there to make sure DWL gets properly initialized before sending it the data. Some blocks just sends that data there. And that's basically it for the Marbs startup routine. And there's two last things that I want to tell you about. The two last things that are run, and they are a bit implicit. So the first one is the KD keyboard remapping daemon, which is started as a system service, meaning it is run even before you log in. You can see it being active by running sv status kd, or on Artix Linux, and that's running runit, or on systemd based Arch Linux, you can do sudo systemctl status kd. And the last thing I want to mention here is the XDG desktop portal, which is responsible for file picking and video recording. Once an app, say a browser, asks you to choose some file or screen share, it automatically starts this portal thing and lets you pick files using the native marbs file picker, so LF. To grasp how it works, you'd need to dive into how XDG portals work, which is beyond the scope of this video, but the general idea is that it's just this middleman between the resources of our system and some application. So there's also an associated config file inside .config/xdg desktop portal WLR, and an LF wrapper script that works together to ensure proper file picking prompt. But other than that, there's really no magic. Feel free to play around with the things I presented. And if you want to learn more about the project, watch some other videos of mine or check out the project's website at marbs.kuchta.dev. I plan on making some more videos detailing the use of Marbs core programs such as LF, and do a showcase of some of the scripts present on the system that can make your life easier. So keep an eye out for those, and till next time, bye.